Okay. Hello everyone, welcome to the stream. This is your host Hollow Knight. I am back for part 3 of Outlast Whistleblower. And for now, I don't know if this is gonna be the last episode or not. To be honest, with the way last episode is going, I wouldn't be surprised if I get this done.
Triple bogey, that's bogey.
Oh, darling! Come back to me! You're gonna run out of places to go. I know you're not liking us. Or are you just another whore?
I mean, if all goes well, I'll probably wrap this up in one more episode. Oh, well, I'm dead. That's lovely.
What?
Woo, I escaped. For now. Well, I know what this is. This is where Glutsky is going to meet his end, if I remember correctly. Oh shit. I screwed that up. I got pissed off. Alrighty. No! How did you stab me? You dick! The man just stabbed me through the fucking... Ow.
One more. I tried, and I tried. You all betrayed me. You can hang like the rest of them. Heavier than you look. If this is you on the honeymoon, I hate to imagine our anniversary. Hold still. God damn it, what are you? Oh, damn it, darling. No, you need to behave. We could have been beautiful.
He's very much dead. Wasn't sure how soon that was gonna happen in this episode, but... Oh wait. I can probably go through the door now. Oh, hey. There's the church. There's the burning church from when Father Martin burned himself on a cross. Now the church over there is burning, which means Miles is somewhere in here. Miles is somewhere in the asylum at this point. Probably most likely in the basement. In the secret lab in the basement.
Let's just say he's dead. Yeah. What kind of sick fuck would do this to somebody? He even took his damn pants.
Tell you what, I've seen more than enough dick and balls tonight to last me a lifetime.
And not all of them attached to a man. Let's wrap this up and get back to the truck.
Amen.
That's the doctor. It's Dr. Traeger. He's very much dead. Wait, am I back where I was? Yeah, somehow I went back completely around in a circle. Or not, maybe I was just in a different angle. Oh, I'm getting towards the beginning. This is the room that, I think that's the bathroom one dude locked himself in. It's the way that... Wait, can you see where he was thrown through the window? It's probably over there. Oh yeah, right there.
Park. How the fuck are you still alive?
You got thrown through the window right there.
Make a deal? You help me, I'll help you. Help me up, please. Fucking die! No one can know. No one. How to get out? No! Nothing!
That's lovely. Oh, excuse me. There's his arm. That's a different person. There's his leg. There's his other leg. There's part of him. Half of his body. Can I open any of these? Oh no, that one's been barricaded now. The wild guess inside this is barricaded too. Yep, barricaded. Just making sure I'm not missing anything. Especially considering this has been a very short stream and I'm already pretty much done with the game, which I really suck at doing that. I did that with Spider-Man yesterday. Where I streamed a little too... I cut the stream a little too soon and then the last episode was just way too short. Daytime now. compared to when it was nighttime when we first came in. I don't know if you can see the church on fire anymore, but let's go over here. Maybe we can see the church on fire on this side. It's possible the church is in the very back though, so we might not be able to see it. No, you can't see it. I'm surprised you can't even... Surprised you can't see smoke from it at least though. And it was over here that we first came in. Yeah, we first came in. That window right there. That's where... That window right there is where Miles first came in. Excuse me.
You press that button. There's no going back, Mr. Park. There's enough hard evidence in that video file to make a world of shit for our friends at Murkoff. You got out of Mount Massive alive, and we've done everything in our power to cover your tracks. But our enemies are twitching and malicious corporate paranoics with resources you're too moral to imagine. You won't be the only target. Anyone you care about, your wife, your child, there'll be nothing to Murkoff but ways to hurt you. I need you to understand the bridge you're crossing here. You will do irrevocable damage to the company. You might even get close to something like justice. But once you click upload, your life is over. Everyone you love is fucked. But it's the right thing to do. Is hurting Murkoff worth that much to you?
Fuck yeah, it is. Excuse me. Wow. Another stream that's only half an hour because I judged the ending. I judged how much I have left of the game a little too soon and cut it. But
Are you just gonna let the credits roll then?
I'm gonna let the credits roll while talking about the game for about, honestly, it's about a half an hour. If I talk for like 10-15 minutes, 45-minute video is not the worst. So, yeah. So that is all of the first Outlast game, Outlast Whistleblower, and just the main game, Outlast. Honestly, to this day, I still absolutely adore this franchise. I've played all of them but Outlast Trials, but Outlast Trials is not fully out yet. But when it does come out, I'm definitely going to pick it up. But for those who may not understand how the DLC fits into the first game. It's kind of intertwined into the series. So you got Outlast, the main game that takes it centers around a detective named Miles Upshur, or I guess he's a reporter. I don't know. I'm pretty sure he's a reporter, not a detective. Sorry about that. But he's here to get evidence of the fucked up experiments that Murkoff Company is doing at this asylum. So he comes in. He if you didn't notice that little fence with a hole underneath it that I went into, that's where Miles first goes into the asylum at the beginning of the game. He basically goes in there, sneaks through the thing, goes through hell, meeting the twins, meeting Chris, he meets Chris Walker, who's the big dude that constantly calls everyone Little Piggy. He meets the twins. He meets Father Martin, who considers himself a priest, but doesn't actually have a priest. He doesn't actually have any practice as a priest, so technically he's not a real priest. But he meets the father. He meets a couple other kind of just psychopathic, absolutely crazy people, and eventually he runs into the Wall Rider, which is very complicated. Explaining the Wall Rider is a task and a half. Because I mean, while it appears to be a ghost, it actually technically is not. Technically, the Red Barrels, the studio behind Outlast, did release a couple comics that actually explain the ending to Outlast and the connection to Outlast 2. But technically, the Murkoff Company was working on two main projects. That one being the Wall Rider project, which is basically they created nanobots. Like, basically very, 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 very highly advanced nanobots that could basically fuse with flesh and enter a person into, and basically if they find the perfect host, the Wall Rider can basically fuse with that person's blood, and the nanobot swarm and the person become basically one entity. But it's designed to look like a ghost. It's designed to look like a ghost so that if anyone were to see the Wall Rider, it's written off as if they were just seeing a phantom or something like that. So that's why it's designed to look like a spirit, but it's in reality it's nanobots. It's very advanced nanobots fused into somebody's bloodstream. However, not everyone can control them. The problem with the Wall Rider project is they kept every time they tried to test a subject with it, the Wall Rider would reject them, and if you get rejected by the Wall Rider, you go splat. You basically get ripped apart from the inside out. But then they found Billy, I do believe his name is Billy, but who became pretty much one of the first perfect subjects for the Wall Rider. And that's who you see in this like weird glass tube thing in the end of the main game, that Miles finds in a glass tube thing that he turns off the power to his thing, because Miles basically decides that he can, if he shuts off the system to the Wall Rider, maybe it'll kill him, but that's not really what happens. Basically, he kills the machine. He shuts the machine off. However, the Wall Rider then basically escapes Billy's body and enters his own body, and he becomes the new host of the Wall Rider. And that's how the first game ends. The way the Whistleblower DLC is incorporated into the main game is that basically, you play as the Whistleblower. You play as Parker, Mr. Parker, who works for Murkoff, but he doesn't like the things that they do. He thinks the things they do are unjust and fucked up. So he writes a report, sends it to Miles, telling Miles that he needs to get his butt here to report on all the shit that they're doing. But he gets caught in the process. He gets put into the Wall Rider project. But then the Wall Rider escapes. The Wall Rider fused with Billy escapes, causes havoc. All the psychopathic patients start escaping. Everything goes to hell, and then Mr. Parker has to escape. He has to escape the facility with as much evidence as he can about Murkoff's situation, because he's not sure if his message to Miles ever made it, so he's trying to get out. But little does he know that Miles did get it, and he is at some point. Throughout the Outlast Whistleblower DLC, Miles does show up at the asylum, and basically Miles and Mr. Parker are both trying to escape the asylum in different parts of the building at different points of time. But they're both there at the same time. Throughout the Whistleblower DLC, you can see evidence that Miles is in the building at some point. You see Father Martin writing on the wall that he's writing down the drain on the wall at one point when in the Whistleblower DLC, and that's actually he's writing a message to Miles. Which means that Father Martin has met Miles already, and he is writing a note that says down the drain, because there's a part in the first game where you have to follow the arrows that Martin draws on the wall. So like, you know Miles is in the building at that point because you see Father Martin writing messages to him. Then later on in the game, you meet the twins, just like how the twins tried to attack Miles. Eventually, Mr. Parker meets the twins, and the twins mention that they couldn't capture Miles. They don't say him by name, but they say they couldn't capture the other one, so they go after Parker instead. They don't get him either, but so that's another reference that Miles is in the building and has already met the twins. There's a brief moment where you meet Chris in the DLC, but like it's very brief. Once you've escaped Chris in the DLC, he never comes back. And to be honest, technically he dies in the end of the first main Outlast game, so technically by the end of the game, the Whistleblower DLC, Chris is no longer a threat because he's dead. But eventually you come out of after escaping both the main because I mean the first game kind of has a lot of different like main kind of bad guys that you escape from. I mean, you got Chris, you got Chris, you got the Dr. Traeger, you have the twins, and then you have the Wall Rider towards the end of the game. So technically the first game has 4 main kind of enemies that you face, and then a bunch of older, smaller guys that chase you around. The DLC has 2. The DLC has the dude with the saw blade that is a cannibal and tries to kill you, which you get away from him relatively easy, and then you never see him again, to be honest. And then you have to fight Glusky, who is the dude who wants a bride, but because there are no females in the asylum, he captures men and cuts the dicks off. with a saw blade. Yeah. But yeah, and then eventually you take him out, and well, technically he takes himself out because he's an idiot, but point being, once you get past Glutsky and you start getting towards the end game of the DLC, you start to see even more connections to the first game. You see the church on fire from through the window. You can see in the distance on the other end of the asylum, you see that the church part of the building is completely engulfed in flames already. That's a reference to the first part, the main game, because that's how Father dies. Father Martin does burn himself on a cross as a sacrifice. He sacrifices himself and has his followers burn him on a cross. I'm not entirely sure what his goal was there, but technically he ends up burning like half the building down, because as you see in the Whistleblower DLC, after Parker escapes Glutsy and goes upstairs, you do see that half the asylum is on fire now because of what Father Martin does. And then when you start going through the dark, you start seeing a bunch of soldiers looking around, and you can, if you peek through this gate, this locked door, you can see that they are looking at the dead body of Dr. Traeger, who Miles kills by crushing him in an elevator. So you see him. Then if you go through even more, you'll hear on the other side of a door, you'll hear the radio of one of the soldiers go off, and you can hear screaming and somebody calling for backup and telling them to get to the underground lab as soon as possible. And then you kind of hear what sounds like the ripping and tearing of flesh, which I'm 100% inclined to say that was probably when Miles gets possessed by the Wall Rider, and then the Wall Rider and Miles rip the soldiers apart. And then obviously towards the end you see the Wall Rider, but you see how Miles has, with the very last of his strength, pushes Parker out of the gate and pushes the car away so that the Wall Rider can't get to Parker. And so, yeah, technically, Outlast Whistleblower, very much intertwined with each other, and the events pretty much happen at the same time. The only part of the Whistleblower DLC that really takes place before the main game is the very first part, like the very first prequel before he gets caught and sent into the Wall Rider project. Once he's in the wall, we can pretty much assume right after he wakes up and in a cell in the Wall Rider project that Miles is likely already in the building, or at least has just arrived at the asylum. And then technically, while most people don't know that they did it, there is technically comics that explain the ending of Outlast. It does explain what happens to Mr. Parker, and it does explain how the first game and the second game connect, because the other project that Murkoff Company did was basically a memory wiping machine. Basically, it's this giant machine that they use it on Parker in the DLC at the very beginning, but it's basically a machine that flashes people with very, very bright lights and completely wipes your memory.
Like Men in Black?
Yeah, but it's mainly it's similar to that, however...
That's actually almost like exactly what they do.
Yes, but Men in Black use it for a good reason. The people of Murkoff used it to basically completely make people forget their past, so that they could manipulate them and use them in their projects. That's what they created theirs for. And that's how the first game connects to the second game, because it's actually that project that causes the entire village in the second game to go batshit crazy, because that's the problem that the machine had, is it works too well. Anybody hit by the flash, if they're not wearing protective material, completely lose their mind, and they slowly become batshit crazy, and their mind deteriorates little by little until they have absolutely nothing left. And that's basically what happens in the second game, is that Murkoff tried to basically find a place to experiment on this device where they thought they weren't going to affect anybody. Turns out there was a village there, a very religious village there, and when it hit them, when the beam of light burst out and hit them, it turned them into the two groups in the second game known as the Heretics, and I totally forgot the other group. Hold on, give me a second. I think I can look up what the second game is, or what they're called. Outlast 2. Also, I don't know if anybody noticed this, but there are, despite the fact that they have a female unit, there are no females in the asylum, and that's another big thing that it connects to in the second game, is because this mind device, wiping device, it had a weird effect on females, and basically when it hit a female subject, it would give them what they call a phantom pregnancy, and they would basically act as if they were pregnant with something that didn't exist. And so eventually Murkoff decided never to have females in their thing. Like, there are no female staff, no female subjects in their asylum, despite the fact that there is a female ward in the asylum. They don't have any females in the game anymore, and that's actually what happens in the second game. The Blake is the main character of the second game, but his wife Lynn gets quote-unquote pregnant with a child, despite the fact that they never conceived a child, and she's suddenly pregnant. Like, she's not pregnant in the beginning of the game, but all of a sudden after he saves her from Papa Nos' psychopathic Christian group, he basically they just call them the Christians and the Heretics. I guess that works. And I guess technically there's also the Scalded, which are basically diseased people. But yeah, no, that's basically how the first game connects with the second game. Basically, Murkoff created a mind control device. They can basically send a big flash of light out to people, and it basically screws with your mental. With your mental thing. They tried to use it in a remote area. Turns out there was already a village there with a group of people there, and ended up screwing with their mind. And then it turned them into two main groups, which was Papa Nos cult and the Heretics. And then technically there is a third group in the second game called the Scald, but the Scald are pretty much just made up of all the diseased people that they couldn't take care of anymore. So they put them in their own little valley between the two groups' lands, and I'll explain the Scald when we do the second game, but that's pretty much what there's technically a third group, but the main two groups are the Papa Nos cult and the Heretics. But those two groups were a result of this mind control project, because the people, Murkoff Company did not give a shit about the fact Murkoff decided to test their thing, didn't bother to make sure there wasn't a group there. There was a group there, but then when they found out that there was actually a village there, and it was causing the villagers to basically form two cults, they didn't care, and they just decided to study from afar. They ended up deciding to study the two groups from afar instead of actually helping them, and basically made them their second project. And that's why in the second game, I'll show you when we get to that point, why you can actually see in the distance, you can see a giant factory, what looks like a giant facility in the distance. And that's because Murkoff, instead of deciding to stop their project, they continued it and decided to just study these two groups from a distance. It's just really fucked up. But that's how the first and second game have their connection, is that it's the mind control project. You're basically going through a village that is the result of their mind control project. And when we get to the ending of the second game, I'll also explain the ending, because the comics also explain the ending to the second game as well, which was a big reason why not as many people liked the second game as much as the first game, because the second game kind of ends very abruptly, and they never explain it, but the comics do explain it, so I will explain that ending when we get to that point. But that also explains... the mind control device also explains in the second game why Blake keeps seeing giant flashes of light every so often, and then suddenly he's in his past, because he's basically being hit by the blinding light from the mind control device. And he's in a way, throughout the entire game, every once in a while Blake will suddenly get hit by a blinding flashes of light. Then suddenly he'll be back in his past and he'll see his old friend Jessica. And that's basically how it's explained by the mind control device is going off every so often, and Blake keeps getting hit by it throughout the game. And while it's not fully explained, it's pretty much it's hinted at that every time he gets hit by the flash and he sees those memories, he gets sent back into his own memories. It's basically the game's way of saying he's losing those memories. He is reliving his trauma because of the flashing of this device on the tower of Murkoff's facility. But at the same time, it is very much hinted in the second game that he's losing all those memories every time he gets hit by the device. And by the end of the game, he's pretty much just as batshit crazy as the rest of them. He might not be as crazy as them because he has some bit of a resilience to this device, as seen throughout the game, that he can still somewhat be sane. But he still loses his mind by the end of the game, because by the end of the game he does see a child that's not actually there. He is seeing things by the end of the game that aren't actually there. So he does somewhat lose his mind by the end of the game. But talk done. Oops. Conversation done, since I managed to have a thorough conversation about Outlast that made this a 55-minute video.
And you talk for 25 minutes straight.
Yeah, but at the same time I'm on topic, so yeah. Ugh. So, we shall call this episode good. So, without further ado, please like, comment, and subscribe if you already haven't. Hit the notification bell to stay up to date with all of my content. If you're on the YouTube side of things, if you're on the Twitch side of things, all you gotta do is hit me up with a follow. And I don't really have anything else to say other than that. Thank you guys all for stay tuning. I will be doing Outlast. We're pretty much just gonna go right into Outlast 2. next week. I'm not even gonna bother taking a break. I'm just going right into Outlast 2 next week. And then once we're done with Outlast 2, we'll likely end up having to take a break between that and the Outlast Trials. And then once we get Outlast Trials, we'll be playing it, but I'm hoping to have some people join me. Depending on what it releases on, I don't know. I don't know if Outlast Trials is gonna release on Switch, but if it does, I'll probably get a copy for my Switch and my PlayStation, because then I know for a fact that at least one person, do not know why I'm pointing at him, considering the fact that you guys cannot see me.
I'm a person who's played with. I've been on a few streams before. You hear my commentary all the fucking time.
But honestly, if the game does release on Switch, which the first two did, and I know the second game has a lot higher graphics than the thing, but it's still not the most insane game that I could see them still releasing it on Switch. And if it does, I'll probably buy 2 different copies of it so that this one can play with us too, because I don't want to play. I mean, if I have to, I'll play the Outlast Trials on my own, but I really want to play it with somebody because it looks like a fun game, and it looks like it would be more fun when you're fighting together, when you're surviving with somebody else. But either way, we will be doing the Outlast Trials as well, and we will be doing Outlast 3 when the day it comes, because Outlast Trials is not the third game. They've said that so many times, yet so many people think it's the third game.
It's just a spin-off, right?
Yeah, they straight up said back when, because after Outlast 2 came out, people were asking them if they were going to continue, and they specifically said in multiple interviews that they want to continue with the Outlast series, but they have an idea for a spin-off first. They've said that multiple times. Outlast Trials is a spin-off game. It takes place before all the games. It takes place in the Cold War. It's not even like continuously. Outlast and Outlast 2 take place one after another. It's Outlast and Whistleblower, because technically, like I said, they're simultaneously connected. And then Outlast 2 takes place literally only a few years after the first game. Yes, it's different characters, but it does have a connection to it, and it only takes place a few years after the first game. And I'm gonna take a guess that the third game will probably take place a few years after the second game. And I'm looking forward to it, because honestly, if they make another Outlast game with Outlast Trials graphics, it will be a phenomenal Outlast game. Not saying this game has bad graphics, but you can still tell this game was made in like 2013, and I'm pretty positive it was. Pretty positive that was. Oh, actually no. I think this game released in 2015. Outlast release date was, oh no, I was right the first time. September 4th, 2013. You can tell this game is slightly older. Like, this game has pretty good graphics for a game made in 2013 is not that old, but it's still almost, give it a year and this game is 10 years old already. The second game I do believe was 2015. Maybe I'll be right. No, okay, 2017. April 26, 2017. This game came out a year before I graduated. And then Trials hasn't officially released yet. So yeah, each game comes out roughly about every 3 years, because yeah, 2013 to 2015, yeah, that's 4 years. However, if you want to count it, technically it was Outlast, then a year after Outlast they did Whistleblower, so technically it's been 3 years since the full Outlast game released. And then it's been 2017. Yeah, it's been like 5 years since. But honestly, I would not be surprised if they've been working on Outlast 3 and Outlast Trials at the same time. I would not be surprised if after Outlast Trials comes out that they pretty much almost like obviously they're gonna give it some time to breathe and for people to play it, but I would not be surprised if the next big gaming event after Outlast Trials releases, I do not be surprised if like next year they release Outlast Trials fully, and then like Gamescom or Game Awards next year, don't be surprised if they suddenly announce Outlast 3 right away, because I would not be surprised with how long it's taken them to do compared to the gap between Outlast and Outlast 2. It's been 5 years, so they've taken an extra couple years between the games. And by the time Outlast Trials comes out, it'll have been 6 years since it'll have been 6 years since the second game. So I would not be surprised if they announced that they have been working on the third game alongside this one. But that's just my opinion. I'm looking forward to Outlast Trials because it looks great, and it honestly looks terrifying, especially because of the fact the puppet woman looks terrifying. Yeah, it looks fun, and then I'm looking forward to Outlast 3 once Outlast Trials has had its time to shine. I wouldn't be surprised if they've been working on the two games together, but if you want my honest opinion, I actually hope they at least give Outlast Trial a year before they announce Outlast 3, because I think Outlast Trials has the potential to be one of those games that they work on and add to, because I know Outlast Trials only has 5 trials. It only has 5 trials in the game. That may just be the beta version. They may add more to it when the full release happens, but as of now I know it only has 5 trials. Outlast Trials, if it's really, really, really successful, it has potential to end up being a spin-off, an Outlast game, a spin-off Outlast game that they update here and there, and they add to it, because I don't think especially Outlast fans, like, I would not be surprised if Outlast fans were super hyped at the fact that you got 5 trials to start with, but then maybe like a couple months later they're like, oh yeah, we're gonna add 2 more trials, and then another couple months they're like, oh yeah, we'll add 2 more trials, and we'll just keep adding trials to it as long as you guys keep playing the game. We're gonna still add trials to it. Like, I could see the Outlast Trials being a game where they do update it here and there, as long as it's still being played and it's still popular. So I do hope they give Outlast Trials at least a year to a year and a half to have its time in the sun before they decide to release Outlast 3. That's just my thoughts, but I also am not gonna be surprised if they announce that they've been working on both games together and Outlast 3 gets announced literally less than a year after Outlast Trials releases. But especially considering the fact that Red Barrels tends to announce Outlast titles really, really far in advance. Like, they're not as bad as Bethesda, for example, who always announces their games 6 years in advance. I don't know why. Like, cool, Fallout 5 is coming out in 2030. That's a joke, because I know people joke about that all the time, but I don't think Fallout 5 is coming out that late. I guarantee Fallout 5 will probably be Fallout 5 will probably, considering their slate right now, Fallout 5 is probably slated for 2025 or 2026. I know that's still quite a ways away, but they have Starfield coming out next year. Then in 2024, I'm guessing they're gonna be releasing Elder Scrolls 6, which I'm gonna get.
Bro, they're finally moving on from Skyrim.
Oh yeah, they've been working on Fallout. They've been working on a sequel to Skyrim for forever. They've been working on Elder Scrolls 6 forever. Like I said, they announced their games way too early. Because they announced Elder Scrolls 6. Let's see, it was not that far. It was not that far after Fallout 4 was released. So in 2015. That's 2022 now, so that was 7 years ago.
I'm not gonna go take a shit and wait for you to get
So yeah, Bethesda has terrible. And I know technically Red Barrels did the same with Outlast, because honestly they announced it like 2 years before it released. But then they kept just updating it. They kept updating people on it. They kept sharing their development. And Outlast went from being a pretty average indie title that was not the greatest graphics, not really the greatest anything. Like, it was pretty solidly average when it came to indie games to what it is now. And then I do believe they announced Outlast 2 almost a year and a half before its actual release. But yeah, anyways, I'm gonna get going. I'm sorry I've been ranting. So I'm gonna upload this video. I'm gonna get it uploaded. I'm probably going to change its title on here to end, to mark it as the end. So yeah, see you guys all later. Bye. Just a quick thing before we go. Tomorrow I will be playing The Evil Within 2, and then I will be fully caught up with my streams for the week. I should say later today, because it's past midnight. So later today, I will be playing The Evil Within. But next week we will be doing Outlast. Monday. Yeah, next week we'll be starting Outlast 2, just like I mentioned. Normal time on Wednesdays this time, though, not on Saturday. And other than that, after tomorrow, regular schedule for the rest of the week. So Monday will be my stream with my girlfriend. And then Tuesday will be Horizon in the afternoon, because I'm not doing Fortnite still. Wednesday will be Resident Evil, then Outlast 2. It'll be, Thursday will be the start of Spider-Man, the Heist DLC. Friday will be Fallout 4 in the morning. Then I'll be doing, it'll be Fallout 4 in the morning. Then in the afternoon we'll be doing the around 2 we'll be starting a stream for the I'm spacing, but for the at 2 we'll be starting a stream. I'll be starting a stream with my girlfriend and anyone else who ends up joining us. I shouldn't say joining us. It's either going to be, if Corey's off, he'll probably join us. If he's not, it might be my buddy and his girl that joins us. I don't know. If not, it'll just be us. But we'll be getting on at 2 on Friday to get ready for the Fortnite's Fractured live event, and we'll probably just be screwing around in the pre-event lobby for like an hour before it starts, and then obviously the live event will happen. And then that Friday night we'll be doing the last part of Operation Future Imperfect for Avengers. And then obviously Saturday we end it with The Wooden as usual. So next week we'll have normal schedule. So that's just what I wanted to say quick. Normal schedule since it's not the holidays anymore. And then the week after that will be probably a weird schedule again, and I'll probably fit in as many videos as possible, but for the most part I'll be with my buddy the next couple weeks after that, visiting him. So we'll see how many streams I get in the week. I may end up just canceling my morning streams and only doing afternoon streams, and if I can squeeze in those morning streams during those 2 weeks, fine by me. If I can't, I'll just get back to them Christmas week, because I'll be back Christmas week. So I'll keep you updated though, but that's the plan. So see you guys all later.